In honor of Purim, we're going to review the Megillah a little bit. Everybody knows the story of the Megillah, but it's always worth it to go back and review, because sometimes we remember the Megillah, remember the stories as we first heard them. So we heard them as kids, and then every time we hear it again, we don't dig deep enough to see what is happening. So we start, the Megillah starts in a very grandiose way. In general, because the Megillah was written for the theater. Everything is on the stage. You get the scenery in the palace, in Shushan, and they tell you how it's decorated, who are the protagonists. It's perfect to write a play based on that. So it starts with the feast. Hashverosh, the king, throws a feast, and his wife also has a party at the same time. Then he asks her to come. It says, "Becheter malchut le'arot amim v'aserim et yufya ki tovat mar'ehi." That's what the Megillah says. That he wanted her to come with the crown and show her to all the nations, all the dignitaries who were there. Now, she refused to come. The Midrash, some of the rabbinic interpretation on that story brought up the question, like, why did she refuse to come? So they work on the assumption that everybody is promiscuous and everybody wants, everybody except for the Jews or observant Jews behaves with immodesty. So they say it would be natural for her to come and show herself. Not only that, they said that what Ahashverosh asked her to come, he wants her to come naked and becheter malchut, meaning only wearing the crown. Even though it's not written in the Megillah, it says when it says lehavi et vashti malka becheter malchut, means not only as his wife, but as the queen. So with full regalia, as the queen. And then the Midrash added, after saying that he wanted her to come naked, and after saying that she should have come and she wanted to come, they say that the reason she didn't come was because she contracted some kind of skin disease, leprosy, that she was embarrassed to come to show herself. And why did it happen to her? Because she tortured Jewish women. She used to slaughter her Jewish maidservants and bathe in their blood. This is a lot of details that are not written in the pasuk, just to explain why Vashti did not come to show herself. Then there was another added element, saying that Vashti was the great-granddaughter or the granddaughter of Nebuchadnezzar, who the king of Babylonia, who destroyed the Bet HaMikdash. And this whole thing of her refusing to come and then being executed was the punishment of Nebuchadnezzar. This way his dynasty was gone, and now Esther takes her place. Now all this is one story being woven into another. It sort of makes sense when you take it as a complete system. Here's the granddaughter of Nebuchadnezzar. She's about to be punished, and God manipulates all this in order for her to be punished. But it's not in the text, and there are problems with it historically. Nebuchadnezzar, Ahashverosh, is probably the second or third generation to Cyrus the Great, who defeated Nebuchadnezzar and became the king of Persia and Medea, and then Hashverosh inherited it from him. So it's impossible technically for Vashti to be the granddaughter of Nebuchadnezzar. One. Second, her name is purely it's a Persian name, Vashti, and not Babylonian. So she's not of Babylonian descent. Besides that, it doesn't say that he asked for her to come naked. He asked for her to come with the crown. So there's a different reason here, and that's really missing that point is missing the point of the Megillah. There's something much deeper here. The whole idea of the Megillah is that there's almost no divine intervention. There's only one place in the Megillah where you could say there was divine intervention, that God actually took care and moved the events a little bit, and that is when Haman tries to choose the date to destroy the Jews, and he casts the lots. Right? Like he literally rolled the dice. There are 12 months, so he rolled the dice to see what number he gets. If he gets number 1, it will be on the first month, and so on. So he rolled the dice on the first month which is Nisan, and he got number 12, meaning that the date of destruction was about 11 and a half months away. That is divine intervention, because if it would come to the first month, then the Jews wouldn't have time to do anything. But as it happened, it was enough time to get into action and to move things around. But
he did a couple of times.
According to the Midrash, not according to the Pshat. I go with the Pshat, right? The Midrash says that every month that he looked at, he says, no, this is a good month for the Jews. Let me choose one that is not good for the Jews. And then God says, okay, up until you, there was nothing special about this month, but you are going to introduce a new holiday for the Jews. But then again, it's Midrash. The Pshat is I think the message of the Megillah is that as much as we want to rely on God, and we have this hope and trust and faith in God, we have to take matters into our hands. We have to be active. And here we see that the courage and the bravery of Mordechai and Esther are what helped the Jews, and on the other hand, the stupidity and the jealousy and the envy of Hashverosh and others are what set the stage for both the decree and its nullification. So what happens here? Hashverosh throws a party and he spends time with his friends. It says Bayom HaShevi'i, he did. That was after he already had a special festival for 6 months. He did another party, 7 days, for all the men of Shushan, right? Lemigadol ve'ad katan, only men, no women. So it's the men's club. They sit together 7 days, and then he says, "Oh, let me show you my wife." What is if you think of the analogy in modern terms, the family, the husband with his friends are watching a football game, right, with a 6-pack and a bowl of chips, and they get a little tipsy, happy, and they talk and this and that, and then they remember where are the ladies? They're in the kitchen, maybe, or sitting outside. They don't want to hang out with the men. They're doing their own thing, and they start saying, my wife is this, my wife is that, and the Baal Abayit, the host, says, "Oh, you have to see my wife, right? So let's march her in." This is to show his trophy wife, right? But not only he forgot about her the whole time that they're sitting and drinking, he doesn't have the dignity to go and talk to her himself. He tells his friend, or maybe as an employee or something, go tell her that I want her to. No, maybe in modern time would be send her a text. Text her, come over. I want to show people how beautiful you are. What would a modern woman in America, right? What would she tell her husband? Right?
Let's not go there.
Yeah, let's not go there, exactly. Modern American men don't want to even think about that. It's too dangerous, right? So that's not a good thing to do. This is what Ahasuerus did. He's partying for 7 days with all the men around him, and then on the 7th day, Ketov lev hamelech bayayin, all of a sudden he says, "Oh, you know what? I showed you all my treasures, but there's something even better. My wife. Let me bring her in with the crown and show her to you." And what does she say? "V'temayen hamelka vashti lavo bidvar hamelech asher beyad hasarisim." The Megillah makes a point. She refused to come bidvar hamelech because he sent this royal decree beyad hasarisim. He didn't even go himself. He sent his servant to come. So I said, "You want to talk to me? Come talk to me. Come and talk to me personally and ask me to come." And she probably would say no anyway. So that is the reason for a fall. So Vashti in the Megillah is not a wicked person. There's no reason to say that Vashti was wicked. No reason whatsoever. Where?
How about when she shows up naked?
Where? It doesn't say that. She doesn't show up naked. Again, the Torah, the Megillah says he asked her to come wearing a crown, right?
Nothing else.
Why nothing else? Where does it say nothing else? It doesn't. That's how we learned it, but it's not in the text, right? Imagine. Okay, let me ask you this: you send an invitation for a wedding, and you say black tie. Did it ever happen that someone showed up only with a black tie? and wearing nothing else? That never happened. It's obvious, right?
Only if it's a Playboy photo. Yeah.
Right? It's obvious that it's in addition to whatever, right? But that's part of the narrative. It's understood why the rabbis did that. Because when the rabbis wrote the Midrash, it was way after the Megillah. It was when Jews were under the heel of the Greeks, and then the Romans, and then the Christians, and then the Muslims. And then, you never have a chance to breathe. So for us to say, here is the wicked queen who's trying to oppress the Jews, and she's being punished by God, that's a good story. But it's not the story of the Megillah. The Megillah says that very clearly. She was a feminist, she was punished for it. The world was not ready yet, it's not fully ready today, but definitely she was ahead of her time. Now, what happened with her? We think that she was executed, that she was not executed. But what happened was that first there's a council. The king calls his advisors. So it shows us two things. One, he doesn't really have the brains to handle situations, to run the country, and that is probably because he was not the conqueror. He was the third generation. His grandfather built the empire. His father still had to work a little bit to maintain things in place. He was born with a silver spoon. He doesn't have to work hard. Anyway, spoiled brat. His father is he already was born into this powerful family, so he doesn't really want to do anything. So his advisors run everything for him, and eventually Haman takes that place, right? So he summons them. That's why I say the first reason is because he is not capable of making decisions himself. But second is that the Persians were law-abiding citizens. Everything in the Persian Empire had to be done with legislation. The king cannot decide right now, he's angry, he's going to punish his wife. We have to pass legislation. And that is also, the part of the story we'll see later on. In a way, in that sense, for a short period, the Persians were like the Germans, like the Nazis before World War II. Because if you know well, in 1933, the National Democratic Party took control of Germany, and the 6 years until 1939, when they annexed Austria and invaded Poland, they passed a series of legislation, all legal within their system, that put Jews outside the framework of law. They're not allowed to do commerce, not allowed to marry non-Jews, they're not allowed to live in certain areas, all legal. So the same thing here, later on in the Megillah we see, Haman convinces Ahasuerus to make a decree to kill all Jews. When Haman is exposed and Esther and Mordechai ask to repeal that law, the king says, I'm sorry, was already written, was already legislated, we cannot change it. The only thing I could do is to allow you to defend yourself. So are you serious? This is clearly a cruel and unlawful law. He says, no, that's the law, that's it. So that's how the Megillah starts. They legislate Vashti out of the palace, but not only that, because Ahasuerus was not the only one who had a problem. Other ministers and advisors had the same problem at home. They had wives. Maybe it was the sign of the times that women were more liberated. They would talk back to their husbands. They would demand control. So the advisors found an opportunity.
Hit me with a baseball bat and shut it down.
Exactly. A baseball bat, especially if your husband is a golfer, wasn't he? Right? So they said, okay, we're going to pass a new law. Lehiyot kol ish sorer beveto umdaber b'shon amo. That the man is in control and he speaks his language. That's because there was a lot of migration at the time of the Persian Empire. People moved from place to place, so every family had 2 or 3 languages. Now, before we say what happened with Vashti, you realize what happens when people read this new law. They say, okay, with this king, we have to take him with a grain of salt, because what is the meaning of the law? You are going to speak your language at home. How are you going to enforce that? Who is going to supervise that? You're going to send policemen to every household, and you break in. Okay, wait, was that Russian I heard? No, not at all. I'm talking English, right? So how are you going to enforce that? You know, if anyone here, I think all of us have come from families with 2 or 3 languages, right? Who was going to say whether we spoke Hebrew or Arabic or French or Hungarian at home? Nobody could do that. So people said, okay, this king is a little cuckoo. We'll wait. Every law that he sends out, we'll take with a grain of salt. And that is why later on, when he makes the famous edict of killing the Jews, what was the decree? The decree said that in a year from now, you're allowed to kill your Jewish neighbor. In regular circumstances, people wouldn't wait. They would go and ransack everything. That is when in the 40s, when the Nazis were advancing towards Eretz Israel, right? Before they were defeated in Al Alamein. My mother lived in Jerusalem at the time. She says that the Arab neighbors went and marked the stores and the houses. I'm going to take this, I'm going to take that. They didn't wait. So the same thing should have happened in the Persian Empire, but it didn't happen. Why? Because people said, okay, the king said that in a year we're allowed to kill the Jews. Let's wait. Let's not rush because he might come up with new decrees. Right? But now what they did with Vashti, and with that we'll conclude today. What happened with Vashti? Everybody thinks that she was executed. It doesn't say that. It says very clearly, here, Asher lo tavo Vashti lifnei HaMelech Ahashverosh. Vashti is not allowed to come to the presence of Ahashverosh. And throughout the Megillah, lavo is to come into the room or into the chamber where the king is. What did they do? They said, okay, there's the royal harem where all the women, all the concubines and wives are kept under supervision of the eunuchs. So they said she's going to be in a special room in that palace, but she cannot come to the king. And of course, the king cannot go to her because even the king is not allowed to go into the harem. So what happens now? So why did they do that? The advisors also manipulated the king. They wanted to keep him under their thumb. How do they do that? If they let him kill Vashti, he's going to forget about her. He's going to mourn her for anywhere between 1 minute and a month. Who knows? According to his mood, and then he's going to look for someone else. She's gone. That's it. Khalas. What we say in Yiddish, ili rah rah. Right? What's gone? It's gone. But now that she's alive and she's next door, but he can't go there, he's going crazy. He can't think, she's there. If I only didn't sign that law, but he can't do anything. So now they control him, say, you will have to find a wife, and they manipulate all that. So, in conclusion, that's the first chapter of the Megillah, but it already ties into the next stories. Vashti was could have been temperamental or opinionated. Ahashverosh seems to be not very smart, or even if he's smart, he's lazy, he's not interested in running the kingdom, and it's always other people who are running it for him. And later on, Haman is the one who will become the second in command, but his aspiration really is to be the first in command. And that's why Mordechai sort of tries to undermine him. But all in all, we see, I think in the first chapter, all the dangers of human arrogance and the lack of control over our capacities. Ahashverosh lost it, his advisor lost it, and eventually we see this whole story rolling, Nigla, like the Megillah.